Since agriculture was such a major industry that had taken a huge hit in the Depression, FDR wanted to address how he can help the agricultural industry and how he can keep farmers afloat. And he recognized that the government would have to manage crops in various certain ways in order to keep prices up. So the Agricultural Adjustment Act, the AAA, imposed limits on about 7 different staple crops to keep prices up. So when you have a limit on the market, prices stay up. One of the things that you're seeing today is there's a glut of gasoline on the market, which drives prices down. The reverse, if there's a shortage of it, that drives prices up. So one of the ways to keep farmers afloat, keep product a little bit out of the market. Say, hey, don't grow all crops on all of your fields. So the government would actually pay farmers subsidies, and food processing would be taxed. So basically, the federal government said, hey, you have all this land. We need you to grow these crops on XYZ percentage of your land. And we need you to leave a certain other percentage of your land not growing anything. We don't want to flood the market and drive prices down. We want to keep farmers afloat and be able to get you guys paid and have a living. We're actually going to pay you not to grow all of your capacity. Okay? That was something the federal government did. However, the Supreme Court struck down that idea, at least in part, because the Supreme Court said that the federal government didn't have the constitutional authority to limit production. You cannot require farmers to limit production. So the Supreme Court was a little bit at odds with FDR, especially with the Agricultural Adjustment Act. So a few other different things, Congress would have to get kind of creative in order to accomplish much of the same effect, just basically call it something else. So Congress actually worked to promote a soil conservation policy. So basically, hey, we are going to have to keep our soils fertile. We don't want to burn them out. And if we have 80 acres, we're going to grow on 50 of them and leave the other 30 allowed to rest. We're going to let them rest. We're not going to overgrow. We're not going to overtax our soil and overwork it, therefore destroying it. So we're going to conserve it. That language of soil conservation serves the exact same purpose as telling farmers not to grow. It just doesn't violate the Constitution because of how it's written. It's accomplishing the very same effect. So that was something that was put into place around this time to help farmers. Additionally, many farmers lived out in rural areas that didn't have access to electricity that had come about elsewhere in the country. So during this era, the Rural Electrification Administration was put into place to make power available to thousands of rural farmers through a utility co-op. So Joe Farmer out in the Midwest, whose neighbor is 10 miles away, might actually be able to have electricity on his farmstead. That is something that really took into place. And many different co-ops to this day, electric co-ops still exist. As a matter of fact, my first neighborhood that I moved to in Allen was in a subdivision, but at one time it was on land that was zoned for an electric co-op. So by law, in that house, I had to go through the regional electric co-op, in that case, Grayson Collin Electric Co-op. I had to use that by law because my house was zoned for it. Okay. Otherwise, though, those co-ops were designed to give rural farmers access to electricity. So you're accomplishing a few different things to help your farmers. You're trying to regulate prices to keep them going. You're circumventing the Constitution by getting creative with your language, soil conservation, and you're providing electricity for your farmers out in rural areas.